Today, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Amazon Music and Wondery present Smartless. It's called Smartless as in less smart. Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes host this hilarious weekly podcast. Every week, one host invites a celebrity guest, and the other two have no idea who. The guest list has included major stars like LeBron James, Aquafina, Conan O'Brien, Ryan Reynolds, Billie Eilish, and Seth Rogen. What happens is genuinely improvised and authentic conversation filled with laughter and newfound knowledge to feed this smartless mind. Download the Amazon Music app so you can listen to new episodes of Smartless 1 week before it's available everywhere.
Millions of Americans are getting back to work. CareerBuilder calls it the great rehire. And we want to help you get the best jobs before everyone else. CareerBuilder gives you the competitive edge to get the job you want, at the salary you want, with the benefits you want. We even send job alerts, so your perfect job lands right in your inbox. Go to CareerBuilder.com today, or get left with whatever jobs are left. Find your next job fast at CareerBuilder.com.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the program. It's Betting Across America, and we are presented by BetMGM. I'm Mike Pritchard, your host, live from Las Vegas, and your other host, also live from Las Vegas, Wes Reynolds, in studio with me today. So, Wes, Ben Simmons. There's been talk about him, certainly what's going to happen with the Sixers and Ben, and could they trade him? Were they trying to ask too much in return for Ben Simmons? He tells the Sixers brass he no longer wants to be a Sixer and does not intend to report to training camp. What do you make of this Ben Simmons situation? We can bet on his next team, by the way, if he's traded. The Warriors are plus 300. The Timberwolves are plus 400. The Kings plus 600. Spurs plus 800.
Well, and we knew about this all the way going back really toward the end of the season. It seemed like, just the way that season ended for Philadelphia, that's like, okay, Ben Simmons, who really struggled in that series against the Atlanta Hawks in the semifinals, it's like, okay, he's probably on his way out of town here. And you got a new GM, right. Daryl Morey, now in his second year. Maybe it's time to move on. Maybe not distrust the process, but change the process a little bit. Build around Joel Embiid and some of the other guys that you have. They, I think, want to bring in another scoring guard. So Ben Simmons, a tradable commodity. So, looking where he could potentially land. So this isn't a new story. It's just Ben Simmons makes his comments about it now. So Golden State is up there as the favorite. And Golden State, just because they have different pieces, because they're a team, obviously, that they're like, watch out for next year, because Clay was obviously injured and they were playing shorthanded. So it's like they're going to be more full strength. They had 2 first-round picks this year with Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. If you look at the salaries, it's also not only the needs of a team, the needs of Philadelphia and who can match those, but it's also matching the money here. Right. And if you look at the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins, maybe have to throw in James Wiseman. And a future first rounder, maybe multiple future first rounders. I know there was that rumored trade on draft night where it was like, Daryl Morey obviously wanted a king's ransom that Golden State wasn't willing to pay. But if you look at Golden State, they do have starters. They obviously have Steph and Clay back and Draymond Green back. So they have the pieces in place to, I think, get back kind of in that top 4 in the West where they're a contender. And how well is he going to fit into that lineup, though, when you've already got a guy who's a good defender and gives you a lot, rebounding, kind of a jack of all trades, but doesn't really shoot well from the perimeter like Draymond Green? Well, now you're adding another poor perimeter shooter in Ben Simmons. So Golden State, I understand why they're the favorite, because they have some parts here. I know Minnesota, you look at that lineup with Cat and with D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards, the number 1 pick that they got out of Georgia. But you got to have to give up one or two of those guys if you want to get a Ben Simmons. So it's like, why do you necessarily do that? The cupboard is really bare. It's not like Minnesota is going to be able to trade their secondary players. You have Philadelphia with Embiid as an MVP candidate in his prime, even though, he has to miss games due to the injuries and the load management and whatnot.
Is that why Wiseman might make sense here? I mean, Morey being an analytical kind of guy too. So
yeah, you need a young player. Yeah. You need kind of a spark. Sacramento in the mix. Buddy Hield. Marvin Bagley. It has not worked out for Marvin Bagley in Sacramento, but Sacramento is obviously, they're not wanting to give up a lot of their young core. They don't want to give up De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, nor the kid Davion Mitchell that they got out of Baylor. So a trade package centered around Hield, it's like, is that enough? Because I think Philadelphia does want a ball handler and does want a scoring guard. That's why everybody kind of thought maybe Portland made sense, Damian Lillard, to add another superstar to go along with Joel Embiid. But if you look at those odds, even though there's a favorite there doesn't seem to be that one candidate necessarily that jumps out to you, at least on the surface. San Antonio, maybe they have the shooting guru Chip England down there on Pop's staff, maybe could help him become a better shooter, get his confidence back. But who is Philadelphia going to get back? Maybe DeJounte Murray, you would think, would have to be a part of that.
And that's the thing about trades, though. I mean, we can look at it. Ben Simmons wants out. He wants to be traded. And he wants to. He has his destination in mind, but yet on the other side is Philly and what Morey wants in return, too, though.
Yeah.
So which of these teams kind of size up? I like what you said about the Kings.
Yeah. Because they at least have a shooter that can give you some buckets. Right. Buddy Hield here. So it kind of makes a little bit of sense.
And Morey wants the three ball.
Yeah. And look, Lillard would make sense from that standpoint, too. But it's like you're going to have to give up, I think, probably more than Ben Simmons to get Damian Lillard here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye on that for sure. Ben Simmons, what could happen with his trade request now, or certainly he wants to get out of Philly, does not want to be a Sixers anymore. I knew that was going to come, though. Yeah. The Doc Rivers comments, you knew this was going to happen. It's Betting Across America, and we are presented by BetMGM. I'm Mike Pritchard, one of your hosts here in Las Vegas on the show. Your other host, Wes Reynolds, also in Las Vegas, here in studio with me. And so with us right now is Cecil Lammey. Covers the Broncos for 104.3 The Fan in Denver. Cecil, how you doing?
Fellas, what's up? I wish I was in Vegas with you, too.
I know. What's going on? You normally have a trip out here.
Yeah, usually we'll get back to doing all that and get back to football with the Broncos and the cut-down day and the last-second deals. I just talked to Broncos GM George Payton a few hours ago. It's so active and so busy around here as the Broncos are trying to climb back on top.
Okay, well, let's get to that discussion that you had with the GM George Payton out there in Denver, because you know me, Cecil, I don't like quarterback competitions. The Broncos had one recently, Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian, all this. It was a mess. But now you go through a quarterback competition. Teddy Bridgewater emerges as the starter. What expectations do you have for the Broncos this year?
Yeah, expectations for the Broncos are to make a run at the postseason. They basically have to, if this coaching staff wants to stay in place, and that's part of the reason why, and perhaps a large reason why, they don't go with the young guy in Drew Lock with the upside and the potential. Nah, it's a production-based business, as you guys both know. Like, they got to win. They got to get back at it. Vic Fangio hasn't won a game in September in 2 years. It's ridiculous. So you go with Teddy Bridgewater, and my conversation with Broncos general manager George Payton today revealed just how much he's behind Teddy Bridgewater. Of course, he was with Minnesota as the number 2 guy behind Rick Spielman there when Teddy was drafted in the first round. Teddy Bridgewater had that horrific leg injury, bounced around a little bit, Saints, cup of coffee with the Jets, and of course last year with the Panthers. Now, as the Broncos starters, lots of charisma, lots of leadership ability. Players absolutely love this guy, and you figure that Teddy Bridgewater will run the offense as designed. Maybe not as good improvisationally as Drew Lock, but a guy that's going to run the offense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play great defense and try to win that way in 2021.
Cecil, do you get the sense from the fan base that it's kind of like, okay, it's almost like this year or bust, because there's a lot of transition in the Denver organization, as you know. Look, you mentioned about the coaching staff with Fangio and the bunch. John Elway last year in terms of his contract, in terms of a player personnel guy, and then who's going to buy this team, who's going to buy this team from the Bolin Trust, and then this could be Von Miller's last year in Denver. So this is a team that I like to make the playoffs, and I think Bridgewater is solid. They're going to be able to run the ball well. It seems like they always run the ball well in Denver. And this is an upper echelon defense in this league. So does it kind of seem to be, even though they're not the favorite in the AFC West behind the Chiefs, that it's like this year or bust to get back in the postseason?
Yeah, and I'm not one for hyperbole necessarily. Pritch will back me up on that, but this might be the best defense in the league. I mean, they have no flaws, no holes. Inside linebacker maybe is a little bit of a weakness in terms of coverage, but Pat Surtain, their rookie first-round corner, is probably going to cover a lot of tight ends. At least that's the way that they'll likely scheme it with Vic Fangio. And you look at, of the 11 starters, 6 of their starters on defense are free agents next year, including Von Miller, as you mentioned. So it's like, okay, you got to do this now. You got to win now. The coaching staff can't wait around for a young QB to develop. So it's kind of zigging when everyone else in the league is zagging, going for high-powered offenses and high-powered passing games. The Broncos are going to be a throwback. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to be really physical on offense to match their really physical defense. And, well, as we saw in the Super Bowl with the banged-up Pat Mahomes, by the way, Todd Bowles was able to be quite physical with that Chiefs offense. We'll see if Denver can match that this season.
We're speaking with Cecil Lammey, host of 104.3 The Fan, out there in Denver, Colorado. Does a great job covering the Broncos and the National Football League. So what you're saying right now, too, the mindset, that's what I want to dig into right now, Cecil, for this football team. I agree with you. That defense is loaded. They got cover guys all in that secondary. And then what Fangio's doing with the front, Vic Fangio, look, I played against him. I mean, the guy is an incredible coach. Now, that schedule, looking at the schedule, the first 3 games, he's going to win a game in September this year. They got the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets, right? So the mindset of the Denver Broncos, do they feel like they can compete for the AFC West divisional title?
Well, I'll steal a line from Sweet Home Alabama. Do we know, Mo? Because momentum's going to be huge in this schedule, basically, for the Denver Broncos. So building that momentum, I think they're going to be 3-0, honestly. And I'm not a Broncos fan. I just cover the team. But I look at this and I go, if you, with Vic Fangio and that ground game and that defense, can't beat the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets, well, you're going to have some trouble spots. Well, 3-0, okay, then can you put up a fight against Baltimore? Their only primetime game is against Cleveland on a Thursday night game. It's a short week, but Cleveland on the rise. Can they at least put up a fight against them? The 2 games against the Chiefs, the Chargers are on the rise, and 5 of their 6 divisional games are after their Week 11 bye. So what are you after 10 games? Are you 7-3? Are you 6-4? You know, where's that momentum at this season? I think that carries into a wild card spot. That's what we're talking about. You know, I think we can hand the division title to the Chiefs, but can the Broncos sneak in as that extra playoff team, as a wild card team? That's what they're angling for, and then we'll see what happens. You get to the dance, and anything can happen, and with that defense and with that ground game, maybe they even get to the playoffs and surprise somebody there. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but at least there's more hope this season than there has been the last few years here in Denver.
Yeah, you look at Denver, and you mentioned it, Cecil, with that schedule. All 3 teams, in terms of starting potentially 3-0, have got offensive line issues. A lot of teams right now, right, Mike, have offensive line issues. I'm sounding like Bill Polian here back from a few years ago. It's like it's an epidemic, this poor offensive line play around the NFL, but you really see it across the board. But one place you don't necessarily see it is you've got a young rookie quarterback that's going to have a pretty solid, at least above average offensive line in New England, and that is Mac Jones in New England for the Patriots. I think probably of all the rookie quarterbacks has the best situation. Interested in Cecil's thoughts in terms of, does he agree with the decision to go with Mac Jones day 1 as a starter?
Yeah, and I saw Mac Jones down at the Senior Bowl this year. I've been to every Senior Bowl since the year 2007 till now. Don't miss a single year. And Mac Jones is a guy that I said before the draft, if he goes to New Orleans or to New England, that's the fit. I even, again, talked to George Payton about Mac Jones today because Broncos fans are like, why didn't you take Mac Jones instead of Pat Surtain? Well, it's about fit. The dirty secret in the NFL is how do you fit? And with Pat Shurmur's 3-vert offense, as good and as great as Mac Jones can be, I don't think he fits here in Denver. I think he really fits what Josh McDaniels wants to do. So it's a shocking move, to be sure, but it's one where you're going to do that anyway. They were going to go to Mac Jones anyway sometime this year, so just do it now, rip off the Band-Aid, and let's go. It's something I wish the Bears would do, honestly, with Justin Fields. Instead of going with Andy Dalton, it's something that the 49ers should do with Trey Lance, because these young quarterbacks, they can do special things. We already know the book on a Jimmy Garoppolo or Andy Dalton or even a Cam Newton. We know the book on those guys. Put the young guys guys in, let them grow, let them learn, and that's where you applaud Belichick and company for making this move.
Cecil, as we scan the league here, and all these quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, he's going to play, Mac Jones is going to play, Trey Lance is going to play, Zach Wilson is going to play. The guy that's standing out on the board right now, Justin Fields, we have him in terms of offensive rookie of the year. He's plus 700 right now. What's the holdup in Chicago with them just turning the page to Justin Fields instead of going with Andy Dalton to start the season?
Yeah, nerves, I guess. And if you're Matt Nagy, of course, you're kind of in the same position as Vic Fangio. You got to win and win now. Okay, I get that, but you can win a lot of games with Justin Fields. And it's scouting this entire class. Trevor Lawrence was a difference maker, but Justin Fields, to me, such a high-graded quarterback because more than any other quarterback, including Trevor Lawrence, he went through full field reads. Now, he could have sped him up a little bit, in my opinion, but he's a guy that can make all the throws. He doesn't make one read and run. I love Trey Lance, but that's kind of what he does right now, makes one read and takes off to run. Justin Fields will read the entire field, and then he'll take off as a last resort. He can really do that, and I think the Bears will be better off and get that spark when they do go to Fields because, again, we kind of know what Dalton is at this point. It's not that great.
I'll admit I've been one of the lukewarm guys on Justin Fields, at least in terms of day one, because, of course, you go play Aaron Donald, who beat double and triple teams last year every single snap and won Defensive Player of the Year. But at the same time, I understand you can't protect him. But you look, there's another team with offensive line issues, the Chicago Bears. Jason Peters, who hasn't taken a rep, 39 years old, comes from Philadelphia, was kind of semi-retired, half out of the league, is now the fifth left tackle to take reps for the Chicago Bears if you include the preseason. Not one of them, the guy they traded up for in the second round, Tevin Jenkins. So I think we're going to see Fields sooner rather than later. But I know that there's kind of that debate of like, okay, play the young guys here. But Cecil, I think, is absolutely right on Trey Lance. Now, let me ask you, Cecil, about San Francisco, because Trey Lance, one read guy right now, and he can give you those wow moments. But then it's like, he looks a little bit overwhelmed so far. So do you think Kyle Shanahan can really make this work? Because he's kind of come out and said, I want to do a platoon. Jimmy G is the starter. Keep in mind, this is a guy that was our quarterback in the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. So even though you know what you have, he's not like hot garbage at this standpoint, but they clearly want to use Trey Lance. So do you like this plan initially by Shanahan out there in San Francisco to try to platoon these guys in certain situations?
No, not really. I just go with Trey Lance all the way. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of behind the scenes, there were concerns within that building, like, maybe he could play a little bit more when he's banged up. We know that Jimmy G gets a propensity to get a little bit injured, and there's concerns behind the scenes of like, okay, come on, dude. I know you're hurt, but you can play hurt. You can't play injured. So when does that move go to Trey Lance? And with that ground game, I think one thing we look at with all of these rookie quarterbacks is like you're going to have to supplement them. You're going to have to help them out with those running backs in San Francisco. It's Shanahan's system. I mean, they can run the ball. Doesn't matter if it's Raheem Mostert. Doesn't matter if it's Trey Sermon. Doesn't matter who is back there in the backfield. They can run and run effectively, and that'll really help out Trey Lance when he gets back there. And then because of his rushing ability, he can be very dangerous as a runner himself. So for me, again, I'm a rip off the Band-Aid type of guy. You took this guy, do what the Jets are doing, right? Wilson struggled with pressure at BYU. That's the God's honest truth. Not a lot of people like to talk about, but hey, they're just throwing them in there. And they got Michael Carter. They got a collection of backs, but I like Michael Carter, the rookie from North Carolina there, the best. So I'm a rip off the Band-Aid guy, put these rookies in and see what they can do.
Cecil Lammey, host of 104.3 The Fan out there in Denver. He's on the program with us, Betting Across America, Mike Pritchard, Wes Reynolds. You can follow Cecil on Twitter, by the way, at Cecil Lammey. Cecil, I want to get to surprise teams because, okay, it's not a prediction, not a bold one, but I think Carolina can surprise people this year, right? What other teams are on your radar in terms of teams that could surprise and make the run at the playoffs, maybe make a run at a division this year?
Yeah, I'd like to see what Atlanta can do. I really would. Now, defensively, there's going to be some problems down there, some things that they need to fix. But I really respect Arthur Smith and what he can do. I love Mike Davis. Loved him when he was in college in South Carolina. He's a guy that finally got that opportunity when Christian McCaffrey was down last year and proved that he could be a fine quality starter. No Julio Jones. Obviously, that's going to sting. But again, trusting on Arthur Smith, trusting on Matt Ryan. How can Kyle Pitts mix in here as that rookie tight tight end. Everyone says, oh, tight ends take forever. I remember talking to Caleb Farley. He told me, he's like, that guy's not a tight end. He's a wide receiver. So Kyle Pitts out there kind of replacing Julio Jones. Atlanta is a team that maybe is not getting as much respect out there as they should, but with that offense that can keep them in a lot of games, and in that division, they're going to have that offense to help keep them in a lot of games. And I agree with you on Carolina as well. We'll see how Sam Darnold can play and how steady he can bring, is the steadiness he can bring to that offense, working again with Robbie Anderson there. And, of course, a healthy Christian McCaffrey will help the Panthers a long way as well.
And Pritch, going back to what we talked about at the end of the first hour when we were going in the deep dive with Indianapolis, that's why I still have at least some semblance of optimism, despite the fact that the news has been all bad pretty much this summer from the injuries standpoint, because what Cecil just said about Arthur Smith, I think Tennessee is going to miss Arthur Smith, and Todd Downing takes over. He had 1 year kind of in the late 2010s with the Raiders calling plays on the Jack Del Rio staff, but not proven yet as an offensive coordinator. You got a new defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen, promoted. So that's why I'm a little lukewarm on Tennessee, even though with all the problems with Indianapolis. But Cecil, when we talked about, some optimism teams, and Pritch mentioned Carolina and you mentioned Atlanta, who's a team that you think is going to disappoint that a lot of people seem to like this season, but you're not necessarily feeling them?
Yeah, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Ben Roethlisberger should have retired, honestly. Now, the elixir for the Steelers is Najee Harris. If they feed Najee Harris, and I'm talking 350 touches, if they feed the kid, if they say that you're the centerpiece, here we go, we're going to go back to old school Steelers football, then I'll feel better. But you have Cleveland on the rise. Cleveland is better than Pittsburgh. You have Baltimore, so very strong top to bottom. Baltimore, they're better than Pittsburgh. And, the Bengals are on the come up, but whatever. But it's the Steelers that everyone kind of gives a pass. Hey, it's one final year. It's like, yeah, Ben should have been done last year. Now, as long as they don't have him throw 600 times again, that'll put him in a better spot. But Najee Harris, he's got to be that workhorse that this team needs. That's why they took him in the first round. If they do that, I'll give him a better shot. But now they're competing with a team like the Broncos to make one of those wild card spots, because Cleveland and Baltimore, those guys are going to be the heavyweights in that division.
And Pritch, when we look at that season win total, and you can see it on the graphics, 8.5 juice to the under for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That just seems like it's crazy, but to what Cecil just said, this is a team that has some issues. And look, you have Juju Smith-Schuster, who everybody thought, okay, he's going to be the number one receiver a couple years ago, and he's kind of becoming that me guy that's all about the gram, that's all about the social media, doing that crate challenge. It's like, okay, what are you doing, guy? So, Pittsburgh's got a Super Bowl winning defense, but they surely don't have a Super Bowl winning offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Cecil Lammey, before we let you go, about 30 seconds, this Deshaun Watson saga, what's going to happen there?
Yeah, it sounds like it'll end up in Miami, Carolina. Those are the two, and it's really interesting. We'll have to see the legal situation work itself out. Who knows when he's going to play, but Miami and Carolina, not Denver, are the front runners.
Yeah, it's all about the owners, too, in those situations, right?
Yep,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah, how about that? Cecil Lammey, hosts 104.3 The Fan, does a great job out there in Denver, Colorado, covering the National Football League, too. Follow him on Twitter, @Cecil Lammey, if you want some insight with fantasy football, too. Cecil, thanks again for your time. That was awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Take care. There you go, Cecil Lammey. When we continue the program, we got betting insights from BetMGM. We're going to get to some notable bets and more market movement, perhaps. It's coming up next.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, You get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
Hey, it's Wilmer Valderrama from Essential Voices with Wilmer Valderrama podcast. Lo siguiente es un mensaje de State Farm. Some stories deserve to be told. Incredible, but totally true stories. Stories that we knew nothing about, but that now we want to know everything about. Stories that were invisible, but have found a way to travel from ear to ear. Stories that captivate us, move us, and even teach us. Stories that used to be secret, but that are now a podcast. State Farm celebrates the fact that those stories can now be enjoyed by all. And that's why we want to share a bit of information that we can all enjoy as well. State Farm has surprisingly great rates on car insurance. Yes, for real. If you need to insure your car, don't hesitate to talk to a State Farm agent and take a look at the solutions that match your needs. It's easy. For surprisingly great rates that fit any budget, como un buen vecino, State Farm está ahí.
At Metro by T-Mobile, we don't think you should pay extra for unlimited 5G. Introducing the big 5G upgrade. Experience 5G speed at no extra cost. Ditch your overpriced connection with Boost and Cricket and save half off their top plans when you switch to Metro, the leader in prepaid. Get one line of unlimited smartphone data for just $25 a month, with 5G access included at no extra cost. Plus, get a free Samsung Galaxy 5G with trade-in. All with the power of the T-Mobile 5G network. Rule your day with unlimited high-speed data and a free 5G phone. Only at Metro. Limited time in-store only. If congested data users greater than 35 gigabytes per month notice lower speeds and Metro customers notice lower speeds versus T-Mobile due to deprioritization. Leader based on prepaid subs June 2021. Save half based on one-line Boost and Cricket unlimited plans. See store for details.
Indeed helps you hire great people fast. Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to TalentNest. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Welcome back to the show. It's Betting Across America. Mike Pritchard, Wes Reynolds, your host today. And Wes, BetMGM sent us this notable bet situation when it comes to NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Mac Jones being named the starting quarterback out there in New England. $2,000 to win $20,000 on Mac Jones. He got it at 10-1.
He got in before they adjusted the number, obviously, and we talked about that. If you look at these rookie quarterbacks, offensive line problems in Jacksonville, problems in Chicago, not so much in San Francisco, but Trey Lance isn't going to be the everyday starter, at least right now. That doesn't mean he can't win the job. And look, like Cecil Lammey said in the last segment, he's still a one-read quarterback. He can show those flashes of brilliance where it's like, okay, we got something here. But he also shows that, well, he might not be ready. I know you want to take the Band-Aid off, but he might not be totally ready to start there for the 49ers and be their every day, every down quarterback. Zach Wilson, I still think they have some offensive line issues, and how is he going to handle the pressure with all those pass rushers on the schedule? So the most talented guy, obviously, I think the most talented player in the draft in terms of regardless of position was Kyle Pitts. But can a tight end, even though he's really a wide receiver, can a tight end win the Rookie of the Year? So I think, probably Mac Jones is, of the short price guys, the most logical pick, simply because he's got the best situation. He's got the best culture. He's got arguably the greatest coach of all time in terms of Super Bowl wins. And also he has a good offensive line.
Yeah, we saw a tight end last year for the Raiders have 100 catches, though. Yeah. Darren Waller.
Yeah, exactly.
So if Kyle Pitts is, he's going to be listed as a tight end, even though he might play wide receiver. He could get wide receiver numbers, therefore 11-1 doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, they're going to have to spread that ball around. Obviously, Calvin Ridley's going to get his touches. Cecil mentioned Mike Davis. He's a guy they can use not only running the ball, but out of the backfield as a pass catcher. But somebody's got to replace at least Julio Jones's production, which was granted to be down last season. But somebody's going to be a candidate for that, and I think it would be Kyle Pitts.
Okay, let's get to college football. I wanted to get your thoughts on this game. thoughts are a split down the middle to me in terms of people I've talked to. Georgia and Clemson to start the season. Great matchup, top 5 teams here in college football coming up. Clemson -3, 51.5 the total. Clemson, DJ going at quarterback.
Yeah, and thoughts split down the middle, not only at the betting windows in terms of behind the counter and taking bets at the counter, but also right here on Visa. And I know we had Bruce Marshall on yesterday. He made the case for Clemson because Clemson obviously is the more proven commodity in terms of these big type of games. They certainly have won more over recent years than the Georgia Bulldogs have had. Matt Newman's concurred. I leaned a little bit to Georgia here. We have seen Georgia get some of the money, though. This was like 4.5 all summer, and now it's down to 3. And even at some of the faraway shops, 3 juice to the Georgia side, where it's like +3 minus $1.15, and Clemson laying -3 minus 105. Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, so this is kind of not quite a home game for Clemson. I'm sure Georgia will travel big, but Clemson is used to playing here because they're always in that ACC title game, and who's kind of the sacrificial lamb to go ahead and play them in that ACC title game. But you're right, DJ Uiagalelei is going to be the new starter, and I thought he did start 2 games, won the game against Boston College, and they didn't lose that game at Notre Dame, I think, because of him. I thought he acquitted himself very well, but nevertheless, now you are the guy, and you are facing this Georgia team. JT Daniels, I think they improved when JT Daniels became the quarterback. I know some people aren't necessarily a believer in him, but if you looked at what Georgia did at the beginning of the season when they had Dwan Mathis, who's now transferred to Temple, and they had Stetson Bennett, who was this walk-on, there was a clear upgrade, I think, when JT Daniels took over at quarterback, despite the fact that in that Peach Bowl, Cincinnati had him down double digits going into the fourth quarter, but Georgia did rally. Maybe that carries over. I think the defensive lines are going to have their way with the offensive lines here. I think both sides on the defensive sides of the ball are stronger than the offense sides. And remember, Clemson, that offensive line, even though they had some good personnel, Notre Dame pretty much controlled them. And I think that's the reason why they won that game. They also got controlled by the Ohio State defensive line. So I understand, why people would like Clemson, and this is going to be a two-way action game. I think this is going to dance around this key number, and you're just going to have to shop around. If you like Georgia, 3.5 pops, looking at your Don Best screen, go ahead and bet it. If you like Clemson, laying the low money line, laying the 3 flat, then go ahead and bet it. But I do lean to Georgia this year. I think this is such a key game, but it's kind of a fortuitous spot for both teams because both these teams are national title and playoff contenders. But what do they say? Lose early? Right? Because both of these teams, I think if they lose, are not necessarily out of the title hunt at all.
Could you get a feel during the game, though? I mean, like, this is one of those games where you're watching it, maybe develop a feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be a live betting game. You don't have to bet every game pre-flop. So, obviously, if you're unsure, sometimes the best bet is to not bet at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Clemson -3, 51.5 the total in that one. We got Wes Reynolds here in studio. We got to take advantage of that. The Tour Championship coming up next. Friday's episode of the Ron Flatter Racing Pod focuses on the closing weekend in New York and California. Andy Serling and Tom Amos, the odd couple of Saratoga Live, review the summer season and look ahead to the big races Labor Day weekend. Dwayne Colucci of the Rampart Sportsbook handicaps races at Saratoga and Del Mar. Keith Chamberlain of the National Thoroughbred Racing Association discusses the current state of handicapping contests, like last weekend's National Horse Players Championship in Las Vegas. Subscribe now at iHeart, Apple, Google, Spotify, or Stitcher, or download it Friday morning at vsin.com/podcast. The Ron Flatter Racing Pod is sponsored by First Bet. Welcome back to the show. It's Betting Across America. Mike Pritchard, Wes Reynolds with you today. So here we go. Tour Championship in the PGA, Wes. We can look throughout the season, okay, who has the most wins, who's been playing well lately. I think you kind of throw that out the window, though, when you come to the Tour Championship. What do you, as you go into it, as you approach betting this, what are you looking at right now?
This is actually, Mike, one of the tougher events to bet on the PGA Tour schedule. I was Matt Humans and I, unfortunately, on my guys here, which will follow this program today, we're kind of burying it. We're like, this is a really tough tournament to bet because you have the staggered scoring thing. But tune in to Long Shots, by the way, right here on VSiN as we bury this tournament. But nevertheless, if you look, and especially at BetMGM, I think they're one of the few that are offering both markets. There are two distinct betting markets really here in this event. There is the betting market that has the bonus strokes applied, and you can see that on the graphic. And what that means is what they do is the points leader now in the FedEx Cup, of course, would be Patrick Cantlay, who won for us last week at the BMW. He will start this event at 10 under par. And then Tony Finau is number 2 in the points. He will start at 8 under par. And then you go to Bryson DeChambeau, who starts at 7 under par, and so on and so forth, all the way down to even par. This is the top 30 in the FedEx Cup points. So what they have tried to do, they want the player to win the whole ball of wax. They want the player, because remember how confusing it was? Remember when Tiger Woods had not won in a while, and he, of course, had his time away from the tour, and he won the Tour Championship, but he did not win the FedEx Cup. That went to Justin Rose. And it's like, okay, they're giving Justin Rose this trophy and what was $10 million, now $15 million, which is like a really big freaking deal. And it almost wasn't a side note because everything was about Tiger. And FedEx, of course, pays a lot of money for this sponsorship entitlement throughout the year. So they want the Tour Championship winner to be the FedEx Cup winner. So that is why they changed that after 2018. This is the third year they have done that. Like last year, for example, Dustin Johnson, I think, was 2-1 going into the Tour Championship. He was at 10 under par, shot 11 under, was not the lowest 72-hole scorer in the tournament, but ended up going ahead and winning the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup. Xander Schauffele, by the way, was the low 72-hole scorer at 15 under par, but because of he started so far back in that staggered strokes deal that he was not able to win the Tour Championship. So that's why you have two different markets at BetMGM, with the strokes and without the strokes. So if you're going like with the strokes, it is very hard to really go that far down the board. It's hard to say, hey, this guy's been really hot, but he's starting 8 shots back. So it's like, how can you bet him? So it's very chalky. So like John Rahm at 4-1, I think he's at 7-2 now at BetMGM, made a lot of sense. He is 6 under par, so he's 4 strokes back at Cantlay and can make that up. This is a guy that should have won 2 weeks ago at the Northern Trust, bogeyed 2 of his last 4 holes on Sunday, and then ended up finishing, I believe, third. Tony Finau won in the playoff, by the way, over Cameron Smith. So John Rahm, the number 1 player in the world, he makes the most sense at 4-1, and that was the only one I put for with the bonus strokes applied. And then I went to the 72-hole market. Rory McIlroy, only got him at 11-1. Like you see Rory McIlroy with the bonus strokes, 25-1, because he starts at 2 under in the FedEx Cup points. But if you're just taking him to be the low 72-hole scorer, he would be 11-1, 2-time winner here at East Lake, so I used him. Scotty Scheffler, 25-1, a guy that's trying to make last impression to make that Ryder Cup team for Captain Steve Stricker. By the way, next Monday is when these Ryder Cup captains picks are going to be announced for both Team USA, with Steve Stricker as the captain, Team Europe, Patty Harrington as the captain. So you're going to see those announced next Monday, and then at the end of the month, they'll be at Whistling Straits for the Ryder Cup. And speaking of Ryder Cup, Sergio Garcia, 40-1, 72-hole market. Always rallies to make the Ryder Cup team, even when he's not in good form. Had a 6th-place finish last week. First top 10 since the month of April.
So do you factor in East Lake at all? I mean, the course, you just mentioned 2-time winner on the course there, or a little bit earlier. I was looking at Mark Collin, this one. It was a long shot, 40-1.
Well, and that's not a bad one, because this is the guy that's the best iron player on tour. Now, he had a couple shaky weeks because, his back was bothering him a little bit, and he was kind of down the leaderboard, but played pretty solid on the weekend. I actually did consider him for maybe low 72-hole scorer. He starts, by the way, at 3 under par, so he would have to make up 7 shots to go ahead and pass the leader, Patrick Cantlay. But Morikawa certainly, he always makes sense because he's always number 1 in strokes gained approach. The ball striking is always on point. So, when you look at East Lake, this is a Donald Ross design, so this isn't going to be as easy easy of a course as they played last week, where these guys shot 27 under par to get into a playoff, you're probably looking low to mid-teens here as the winning score. And par 70, about 7,350 yards. Reese Jones did the redesign. Donald Ross, the original designer. So you have the Bermuda grass greens got changed a few years ago. So players got to know where to position their approaches, and they want to be below the pin because the downhill putts are really quick. You have these runoffs into the collection areas on the greens. All the greens, by the way, are pitched back to front, as usually they are on Donald Ross designs. So, that's one of the reasons I went with Rory, who's been very good on these Donald Ross designs. But Morikawa, to your point, does make some sense.
What about Bryson? A lot of people, whether he's polarizing or not, it could be a popular selection.
Yeah, I'm down on him this week, not necessarily because of the heartbreaking way that he lost last week, where he wasn't making any putts and he had so many chances to put Patrick Cantlay away. I was fortunate to have a ticket on both of them, so we went 1-2. But this is not really a course that necessarily fits Bryson. This is not to say you can't play well here, but this is not one of those bomb and gouge type courses. You cannot do that and just, hit the crap out of it off the tee as far as you can, and then if you end up in the deep stuff, you can just gouge it out of there and make birdie. You can't necessarily do that here like you could do last week, and that's why I did like him last week on that course in Maryland.
Yeah, absolutely. You had the weather factor in that too. Drivable par fours.
Yes.
I mean, everything's set up for Bryson.
And that's why I liked him, because it's like you've got these 350, 360-yard par fours. It's like that's right in that guy's wheelhouse. Yeah,
absolutely, because he's going to go for it. Tour Championship coming up this week. I love these selections right here. Wes Reynolds. When we continue the program, we're going to get to Major League Baseball, give you some updates on scores, games in progress, as well as preview some of the games coming up later on today. That's coming up next.
Millions of Americans are getting back to work. CareerBuilder calls it the great rehire. And we want to help you get the best jobs before everyone else. CareerBuilder gives you the competitive edge to get the job you want, at the salary you want, with the benefits you want. We even send job alerts, so your perfect job lands right in your inbox. Go to CareerBuilder.com today, or get left with whatever jobs are left. Find your next job fast at CareerBuilder.com. CareerBuilder is made for people who have that thing. Those superpowers that make you good at your job, the skills you bring to work. And CareerBuilder knows those skills make you right for other jobs too. Higher paying jobs with benefits, jobs you never thought of trying. Are you a people person? Work from home as a customer service rep? Are you organized and like driving? Become a delivery driver. You have the skills it takes, and CareerBuilder.com has the jobs to get you hired fast. Visit CareerBuilder.com.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in head first, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With BetMGM, anyone can capture that Grand Slam championship feeling. Step on the court with the king of sportsbooks for a chance to win $100 in free bets when you place a $1 wager on any player to win the big tournament in Queens, New York. If any player serves an ace, you will win $100 in free bets regardless of your bet's outcome. Just use bonus code VSIN100 when you make your first bet to take advantage of this offer. Sign up now and get access to BetMGM's live betting options, boosted odds specials, daily deals, and more. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com and use bonus code VSIN100 to win $100 in free bets if any player serves an ace in New York. It's a new customer offer, paid in free bets. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be at least 21. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Promotional offer not available in Nevada. Welcome back to the show. It's Betting Across America. Mike Pritchard, Wes Reynolds with you today. So Major League Baseball, Wes, games in progress right now. The Rangers on top of the Rockies 5-4. Padres trailing the Diamondbacks. I looked at this game this morning. They're losing 2-0 right now in the third inning. Mariners, Astros 0-0. And the Cardinals on top of the Reds earlier 5-4.
And just as you mentioned, Darvish taken deep by Van Meter for a 2-run shot. So now 4-0 here in the bottom of the third as the Reds try to let the Padres back in, and we'll get to that Reds game, by the way, a doubleheader. 5-4, your final score. St. Louis over Cincinnati. Two pitchers that were regression candidates did do as much. And 5-4, all the runs came early. Paul Goldschmidt with two long bombs in Great American Ballpark that he hit practically the Kings Island at Sandusky. So
that happens out there.
Yeah, the Great American Ballpark is a bandbox, so you'll get the runs going, and you certainly had them today. 5 on 14 hits for the Cards, 4 on 9 for the Reds, but Cardinals get the win here, and it's just like the Reds. San Diego, they were tied here in the wild card position. Reds get a loss, so San Diego takes a half-game lead, but Darvish getting hit all around the yard here. Bottom of the third, already 4-0. 9 straight games now that Darvish has allowed a home run on the season. So every time It's like that meme, that Spider-Man meme where they're kind of pointing at each other, if you've ever seen that on social media, where it's like San Diego and Cincinnati are kind of like identical teams right now because they're both wanting to give away this wild card spot. The first one is going to be spoken for, whether it's the Dodgers or the Giants. One of those teams are going to win the AL or the NL West rather, and one of them are going to get that wild card. But Cincinnati will get another crack because they do have a doubleheader tonight, 3:40 Pacific, 6:40 Eastern. It's going to be J.A. Happ against Sonny Gray. I would expect, now that the Reds lost that first game, you see a lot of bettors like to do this in those split 7 innings doubleheaders. So Sonny Gray up to about 160, 165. I wouldn't be surprised if that closes 70 or minus 75 in terms of the rebound. So you did mention those games, and then Houston and Seattle just got underway in Seattle. So now bottom of the second, no score.
What about the total in the second one? Is 7, and we saw the first one go over as well. Like that ballpark, I'm just compelled to bet the over for Cincinnati. So, normally I've cashed tickets doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if I'm going to get involved. That over does look easy at 7, considering you look at J.A. Happ on the season, who they got in that trade at the deadline from Minnesota. 5.76 ERA, and not much better on the xFIP at 5.17. So J.A. Happ has been a guy that has been very hittable and can get himself into trouble early. Sonny Gray been pretty consistent this year. ERA just under 4. So I don't know. I don't know if I really want to bet the under, but the over just looks so easy in this spot. But I do think you probably see some money, to your point, on the over, and you'll see some money on the home favorite.
Yeah, how about that? Darvish getting rocked, coming back from IL. Snell is pitching better.
That's one of the things I do, too. I'm glad you brought that point up. First start off the injured list. More often than not, I'm going to go against that pitcher because I think you need that one outing before you can kind of get back to form.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to think about what's going on with the Padres and the Reds, too, at the same time. Yankees against the Angels, always an intriguing matchup. We saw a double steal last night, which was entertaining, to say the least. You got any interest in this game, betting this game?
Yeah, Yankees struggling now. 4 in a row. You kind of thought maybe Berea, because it was supposed to be Ohtani going in the start, and then he had the wrist issue and he got scratched, and it was Berea who had been batters had been hitting like 381 against him this month. So you thought, okay, this is where the Yankees get right. Made a little late rally, but ended up falling short 6-4, and just a lot of strikeouts against that Angels bullpen, which is usually very hittable, but not going to bet it at this point. You do have Garrett Cole against Packy Naughton, who is going to be probably an opener, probably one of those deals Angels, where he goes a couple innings for the Angels, and then it's a bullpen game. So don't really want to fade Garrett Cole. This looks like the spot where the Yankees kind of get right, because they were starting to rally, and now Tampa Bay just keeps winning games. So it looks like the Yankees, probably their hope to get in the playoffs is going to be that American League wild card situation for the Yankees, where they have rallied. They now have a 2-game lead over the Boston Red Sox for that spot. Oakland A's won back of the Boston Red Sox for that 5th and final wild card spot. But yeah, this is a big price. Now, I do think this is probably the get right game for the New York Yankees, but obviously you are paying a very heavy tax here. If they don't get right with Garrett Cole on the mound here against essentially a bullpen starter for the Halos, then maybe there's some problems in the Bronx.
Do you like Cole, Cy Young, or Lance Lynn still on the radar?
I'd still lean with Lance Lynn a little bit. He's just been a little more consistent. Garrett Cole, I think also, and Matt Newmans and I have had discussions about this. Garrett Cole is one of those people that everybody thinks is using the sticky stuff, and we know that earlier this summer the league kind of cracked down on that, and then you saw him look a little bit, not that he was bad or he plummeted off a cliff, but he looked a little more pedestrian. So, not saying, just saying, right?
Well, Wes, I mean, come on. You can find sticky stuff in a dugout, right? I mean, there's Coca-Cola. There's, Mountain Dew. I mean, are they going to throw you out the game?
Not being accusatory, so I got to throw in the term allegedly.
Right.
But allegedly, very subtle.
Look, if I want to find some sticky substance, I can find some sticky substance in the dugout. Like, you're going to throw me out the game for having Coca-Cola on my arm?
It's been so hard to police. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. But nothing on me for necessarily that game. But this Boston-Tampa Bay is kind of interesting here,
I cashed on Monday with Tampa Bay. I didn't play them yesterday, thinking Boston could do something. They didn't. How about tonight's game, though?
Yeah, Tampa Bay, 9 in a row. And it was kind of one of those things that I said yesterday where I didn't really love Tampa Bay in the spot, but it's like, one of the things I'm trying to do, we're always trying to take self-inventory as bettors. We're always trying to improve different things, because every bettor, I don't care how inexperienced or experienced that you are, you're going to make mistakes. And one of the mistakes I used to make oftentimes, and way too many, is I would be stubborn. Because I'm thinking, okay, this is the spot to go against that streak.
Right.
This is the spot to go ahead and get in front of the train here, because it's now priced in. Everybody's going to keep betting it every single day. It's like when they were betting the Orioles, when people always talk about those rollover parlays, which in theory makes sense, but really don't make you much money long term. Remember in the Orioles, everybody was betting them every day. Oh, just roll it over for a parlay. Well, you're going to bet that the one day that streak gets broken, when Ohtani was on the mound a couple weeks ago. So that's why, I don't believe in doing that in terms of these baseball things. But Rasmussen is getting the money here against Chris Sale. Chris Sale's been very good since he has come back, even though the velocity a little bit down, 235 on the ERA, just 247 on the xFIP. But bettors are really just going with Tampa Bay here at this standpoint. I think they are just absolutely rolling because they've won 9 in a row. Tampa Bay Rays are 84-48, Rich. I knew that they were going to be good, but I didn't think that they were going to be this good.
Right.
So maybe if you're looking to bet the Red Sox here, I would lean more first 5 necessarily than going full game here, because Rasmussen probably going to be a bullpen start here for the Rays. So Boston, the Rays are also getting bet in the first 5. So if you look at the market low right now on the Boston Red Sox, I think 130 at BetMGM. There might be a little bit of high 120s out there. That would be the way I would look if I'm going to bet the Boston Red Sox. But do I really want to get in front of this Rays team with a 9-game winning streak? I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. You know what? The Giants, they better watch out, because they're going to find themselves in that wild card situation the way the Dodgers are playing too. So they got to get their victory if they can get it against the Brewers.
And Milwaukee handled them last night as well. So you do have Kevin Gausman on the mound against Brett Anderson. And Gausman kind of has regressed a little bit. He's not fallen off a cliff here, but he has gone down a little bit from that Cy Young form. But he has been an absolute find here for the Giants. And that's amazing with the Giants is they have a lot of reclamation projects on that pitching staff with Gausman, DeSclafani, Johnny Cueto still obviously there, Alex Wood, Aaron Sanchez. But all these guys have managed to be well for this team. And Gabe Kapler, who everybody thought was an idiot in Philadelphia, all of a sudden he is a genius genius in the Bay Area because the Giants still holding that lead over the Dodgers. Now it's kind of like it feels like the clock is ticking because now it's only a half a game with the Dodgers getting a win late over the Braves last night. So Gausman has been bet up to about 180, I think, here at BetMGM has been the adjustment. I'll see if the Brewers have had anybody out of that starting lineup because that is a pretty pronounced amount. But it is Brett Anderson, and I think because Anderson is coming off an injury, so that's why you're seeing the Giants here because now it's kind of like, okay, they got to win or the Dodgers are going to catch them. So to that point, we'll piggyback with the Braves and the Dodgers. Max Scherzer, $2 favorite over Fried. That's I think a very high number. I would lean with the Dodgers there, but I probably will do what I did last night with success and go to the under in that game, under 7.5. I do think that this price, by the way, on the Giants is just a little bit high, so it'd be Brewers or nothing.
Okay. Great analysis right there, Wes Reynolds. So you had optimism for the Colts earlier. With a lot of bad news, they're off-season, entire off-season leading into the year. T.Y. Hilton officially put on IR. Will miss at least 3 games here.
Yeah, and they said he was going to be out for a few games.
Yeah.
So
what's the neck issue? You can imagine that, right?
Yeah. And look, that's what's going to happen with the Colts. You got to have these young guys step up. You got to have the kid Pittman from USC, a second-year guy. Campbell's got to stay healthy, the kid from Ohio State that they drafted. And then Pascal's got to come back, of course, from that COVID if he goes ahead and passes that.
A lot has to happen in the good direction for the Colts.
I know. You got to get it's like you got to get runner cards to deal into an inside straight to get this guy's off to a good start. And that's why I think if you're going to bet the Colts in the AFC South, you might want to wait. Don't bet it pre-flop. Wait till it goes to like plus $3 or $4 and then see them run off some victories here in the middle of the season.
Yeah, when is the bad news going to stop, though?
Yeah, I know.
Colts? I mean, you got to wait for that.
I know, because it's kind of like a NASCAR race where it's like cautions breed cautions. It's like when you get one, you get more, and like the bad news just keeps multiplying for the horseshoe.
Absolutely. Wes Reynolds, great job, man.
Thank you, man.
To have
Good
you on
to
the
be
show
with
today.
you, Mike.
You too, absolutely. That'll do it for us today. My Guys in the Desert coming up next right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The stories that are affecting the Black community are being covered on the Black Information Network. Not a show or a podcast, BIN is a 24/7 news network covering stories from a Black perspective. Listen to the Black Information Network on the iHeartRadio app and get news for and by the Black community. Anywhere, anytime. Keeping you informed, keeping you engaged. The Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mike Yam.
And I'm Aditi Kinkhabwala. We love football so much, we figured let's start a podcast and call it NFL Explained, where we just answer all the crazy questions we get about football all the time.
There are a ton of those questions, Aditi. We can go through team names, like how the Buffalo Bills got their name, or who even came up with the Sky Camp, because that is actually a really cool idea.
Answers to questions like that and more every Thursday. Come join us for the NFL Explained podcast.
You can find it on the iHeartRadio app or on Apple Podcasts, basically wherever you find your podcasts.